Welcome back. To get caught up on this journey of CBS Sports 1990, take a look at part 1 here. We begin with the NFL playoffs to close out the 1989 season. The games not involving the San Francisco 49ers were relatively closely fought, with the Los Angeles Rams defeating the Philadelphia Eagles 21-7 in the NFC wildcard game on New Year's Eve 1989, off the strength of 124 yards on the ground by running back Greg Bell, who had been crudely dismissed as a threat in a press conference a few days earlier by Eagles head coach Buddy Ryan, including a 54-yard run in the fourth quarter to Philadelphia's 10-yard line before Bell ran 7 yards for the clinching touchdown.
2nd and 10. 3:23 remains. Holohan was the motion man. The draw play to Bell. Bell off to the races. Greg Bell chased by Jenkins. Finally caught by Jenkins inside the 10. Tried to strip the ball loose, and it almost worked. A 55-yard sprint by Bell.
Everybody, no one thought that the running game would be a big factor in this game, but I think the running play just won this game right here for the Rams. They needed a play. They'd gotten a pass to McGee, and then Bell makes a big run here. Good block by McGee on that one. He just picked off Hopkins enough to let Greg Bell get to the outside.
He almost knocked that ball loose.
Well, he did. He knocked it out of his right hand and into his left hand.
The executive producer of CBS Sports, Ted Shaker. On 2nd down, Bell again. He's close and in. Ram touchdown by Greg Bell.
Well, that's John Robinson, and I know what he's going to say. I know the first thing he's going to say to his team inside, we wore him down. That's what John Robinson preached from. I remember when he was with me as an assistant coach, when he was a head coach at USC, and here he says, we'll wear him down, we'll wear him down. And that one, they just, boom, they just popped it in there. He raised his hands, and I'll guarantee you, he said, we wore him down.
And he's done it with the running attack, which they said couldn't be done.
And hey, you talk about a guy who's done an outstanding coaching job. John Robinson with a lot of different guys.
The extra point makes it 21-7.
Followed by the Rams' NFC divisional win over the NFC East champion New York Giants 19-13. The Giants making their first playoff appearance since winning Super Bowl XXI 3 seasons earlier. In overtime, off a game-winning touchdown pass from Jim Everett, the Rams quarterback, who threw for a league-leading 29 touchdown passes, finding Willie Flipper Anderson for a 30-yard touchdown on a drive set up by a pass interference penalty on Giants defensive back Sheldon White.
The Rams, I think, are showing amazing will here. I mean, they have to be tired. But the condition that they're in to play like this for as long as they have, this is something.
Here comes the giant blitz. Everett going for Anderson, incomplete. Flag on the play. Sheldon White is going to be called for pass interference. Deep in Giant territory.
The whole season can be that play.
The referee. 27-yard penalty.
Interference, 39. First down.
First down, Rams.
Hey, that's what makes coaches old. Flipper Anderson going for the ball. Sheldon White going for the ball. I don't think Flipper Anderson would have caught this ball. I don't think that's interference. I think you have to let a guy cover a guy. You have to let a guy go for the ball. You can't make that kind of call in this kind of game.
1st and 15 for the Rams at the Giant 30. Everett going deep. Touchdown to Willie Anderson. And he doesn't even to stop. He's headed for the locker room. The Rams win it. Anderson burned by Mark Collins. And this place got very quiet very quickly.
Meanwhile, CBS's lone major college football bowl game, the Mobile Cotton Bowl Classic, was held on New Year's Day. The game saw the Southeastern Conference champion Tennessee Volunteers hold off a late rally by Southwestern Conference champion Arkansas Razorbacks to win 31-27.
Ron Dickerson in the lineup now in the backfield. Grovey throws. Winston has it at the 40. Hey, he shakes free at the 30, to the 20, to the 10, and he fumbles the football into the end zone. It's free for a touchdown. Again, it's Winston on the recovery.
Unbelievable.
Rouse on a wing. Fillmore in motion. Here it is, inside the Rouse. Rouse will throw now. It's his only chance in the direction of Fillmore, and it's knocked down by Keith Denson. Nonetheless, 31-27 with 1:25 to go. Then Ray Hines will attempt it. The onside kick. High bounce, the ball is free, and then Harper grabs it for Tennessee. Alvin Harper.
The games involving 49ers, on the other hand, saw the competitive phase of each of their games ending very early. San Francisco entered as the defending Super Bowl champions with the decision of head coach Bill Walsh to retire after Super Bowl XXIII not hampering the 49ers in the slightest. Under successor George Seifert, who had been promoted from defensive coordinator, the 49ers managed to finish with the NFL's best record of 14-2, the league's top-ranked offense, 68 yards from scrimmage and 442 points, with Mike Holmgren being promoted from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator. Walsh's experience was on offense. He handled the offensive play calling himself during his time with the 49ers, as well as the third-ranked defense in the NFL, with quarterback Joe Montana making a strong case for being considered among the best quarterbacks not just of his era but of NFL history, winning NFL MVP and Offensive Player of the Year honors by completing 70.2% of his passes, just shy of the then record 70.6% completion percentage record held by former Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Ken Anderson in 1982. Montana also threw for 3,512 passing yards and 26 touchdowns versus 8 interceptions, good for a passer rating of 112.4, at that time a new NFL record, with a collection of legendary players that included 5 future Hall of Famers. In addition to Montana, other members of his 49er team enshrined in Canton would include star receiver Jerry Rice, linebacker Charles Haley, hard-hitting safety Ronnie Lott, and even Montana's backup Steve Young. The 49ers entered the postseason looking to become the first team since the Pittsburgh Steelers a decade earlier to win back-to-back Super Bowls. San Francisco ended up blowing out each of their postseason opponents. First, by ousting the NFC Central champion Minnesota Vikings on January 6th by a score of 41-13, including 27 unanswered points against the Vikings defense that was the league's best, with a team record 71 sacks, 21 of them alone, with future Hall of Fame defensive end Chris Dolman leading the league with a team record 21 sacks, just shy of Mark Gastineau's then record of 22 set 5 years earlier, while defensive tackle Keith Millard had his best season by far, winning Defensive Player of the Year honors on the strength of 18 sacks, a record for a defensive tackle that stood until being surpassed by Los Angeles Rams defensive tackle Aaron Donald's 20.5 in 2018. This, by the way, is the third straight year that 49ers and Vikings faced each other in the playoffs.
For Craig fumbled. Ray Berry recovered. Blitz. Montana, 5-step drop. Over the middle, clock, watch out. The race is on. It's Jerry Rice. One man to beat. and goal. 7-3, 49ers lead.
That looks like the catch. Brent Jones, and they look for all the world like Joe Montana to Dwight Clark in 1982.
Rice starts in motion. Montana rolls right.
Touchdown, John Taylor.
Taylor in motion. And again, no pressure.
Touchdown, Rice.
Goes in the first quarter. Here's Kramer. Intercepted.
Ronnie Lott. Touchdown.
The NFC Championship game on January 14th saw the 49ers shear the division rival Rams by a score of 30-3, scoring 30 unanswered points while limiting the explosive Los Angeles offense to 156 yards, intercepting Jim Everett 3 times and providing the most notable and embarrassing moment of Everett's career when Everett, following numerous hits by the 49ers, went down to the muddy Candlestick Park field without being touched in what became known as the Phantom Sack.
3rd and 10. There is no target, and Everett goes down.
I'll tell you, Everett felt the bullet when there was no bullets.
Haley and Roberts were close. Loss of 6.
I don't know that I've ever seen a quarterback get knocked down when there was no contact. I mean, he's there. There may be someone. You should not feel that. I don't care. In this game, you got to keep that head up and keep working to find it or run it. You should not feel a guy behind you.
Which brings us to our first major event, Super Bowl XXIV on January 28th, pitting the 49ers and the Denver Broncos at the Louisiana Superdome. Maybe this game will be at least as exciting as the previous Super Bowl.
2nd and 8. Typical 49er drive. Montana looked to Rathman, hits Rice. Rice scores for San Francisco.
Takes of leg whipping.
2nd and goal from the 7. Scott Curtis has taken Mecklenburg's place. Montana, Brent Jones, 49er touchdown. They have to watch that. Montana going up top to Rice, touchdown. From 38 yards away. 49ers at the Denver 28. Rice, touchdown. Going deep for Taylor, another touchdown.
And that's the same place, Pat. It's that post. It's the middle of the field. You talk about being vulnerable. That's worse than being vulnerable. They're getting killed.
Not. It became a slaughter as the 49ers destroyed Denver 55-10. Still the biggest blowout in Super Bowl history. Joe Montana will end up with his then record 3rd Super Bowl MVP award for throwing for a then record 5 touchdown passes. In all, during this postseason, Montana threw for 11 touchdowns without an interception, with 3 of the scores going to Jerry Rice, tying a single-game Super Bowl record set by teammate Roger Craig 5 years earlier. In part because of the lopsided nature of this game, CBS finished with a 39 Nielsen rating, the worst rating for a Super Bowl since NBC finished with 36 for Super Bowl III on January 12, 1969. In terms of individual stations, the weakest showings among 23 meter markets were in St. Louis, where affiliate and former CBS O&O KMOV TV4 finished with a 32.2 rating and 51 share, and Miami, where CBS is owned and operated station of just over a year, WCIX TV6, now WFOR, and on Channel 4, mustered a 30.7 rating and 49 share. Meanwhile, Spencer Koch, the general sales manager of then CBS affiliate WJBK TV2 in Denver, was quoted following the Super Bowl as saying, quote, "It's an event, not ratings. You're not selling a spot on a show. You're not selling a spot in a show, but packaging an event to a whole new universe of people. It also helps us in the weak primetime situation we're experiencing." Let's backtrack a little before we leave January 1990. Taking a look at the basketball scene, on January 6, CBS aired a college game between the Temple Owls and the 18th ranked North Carolina State Wolfpack as their lead-in to the 49ers-Vikings divisional game, with Tim Brandt and Len Elmore calling the game, played at Atlantic City instead of the Owls' home venue at McGonigal Hall in Philadelphia. The Wolfpack, in their final season with Jim Valvano as head coach before resigning under pressure that April after going on probation for 2 years and being barred from the 1990 NCAA tournament after an investigation into rules violations focusing on center Chris Washburn, who by 1990 had been banned by the NBA for life following 3 failed drug tests, managing only a 470 out of 1,600 SAT test score, just 70 above the starting score of 400, along with allegations that revealed players had sold shoes and game tickets. While Jimmy V had been cleared of any wrongdoing, and the pool commission report concluded no major NCAA violations were committed, Valvano and his staff were criticized for inadequate oversight of his players' academic progress, with Valvano having already been forced to step down as athletic director for NC State by this time. In any event, the Wolfpack edged out the Owls 74-71. The next day, following the Rams-Giants divisional playoff game, James Brown and Billy Packer traveled to Louisville, Kentucky as the 8th-ranked Louisville Cardinals hosted the 15th-ranked UCLA Bruins, with the Bruins losing to the home Cardinals by a 97-80 margin. January 13th marked CBS's first college doubleheader of the season. Vern Lundquist, whose 1989 season NFL duties had ended in San Francisco a week earlier, and Bill Raftery traveled to Rosemont Horizon in Rosemont, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, as the DePaul Blue Demons hosted the number 2 ranked Georgetown Hoyas in the early game, which ended with the unbeaten Hoyas, aided by a 26-point, 14-rebound effort by sophomore forward center Alonzo Mourning, improved to 13-0 with a 74-64 victory. That day's late game, called by JB and Billy Packer, saw the 10th-ranked Duke Blue Devils host the Maryland Terrapins, with the crowd at Durham's Cameron Indoor Stadium leaving happy as the Blue Devils, led by 27 points by Christian Laettner, won their 9th straight game by a 91-80 margin. January 20th marked a tripleheader in college hoops. The earliest game at noon Eastern Time saw the Pittsburgh Panthers welcome the Seton Hall Pirates, Tim Brandt and Len Elmer on the call in Pittsburgh. In a Big East battle, Seton Hall advanced to the national championship game before losing to Michigan the previous season, dropped their 4th straight game after a 7-3 start by a 65-63 score. The 2 o'clock game saw Vern Lundquist and Bill Raftery in Tucson to call the 23rd-ranked Arizona Wildcats host game against the 3rd-ranked Oklahoma Sooners. The Wildcats ended up upsetting the Sooners, a Sooner team that had started 12-0 before losing their first game to Kansas State the previous Wednesday by a 78-74 margin. Finally, with an off week between the NFC Championship game and Super Bowl XXIV, Brent Musburger made his college hoops debut of the season where 13th-ranked LSU Tigers hosted the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, though instead of playing on campus at Baton Rouge, they were playing at the Superdome. rather convenient for Musburger considering that was decided following week's Super Bowl. With a roster including first-team All-American and SEC Player of the Year point guard Chris Jackson, later known as Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and center Stanley Roberts and freshman Shaquille O'Neal, the Tigers easily routed the unlucky Fighting Irish by an 87-64 margin. January 27th began with regional coverage for the early game, with viewers getting either a game between the Pittsburgh Panthers hosting the 19th ranked Arizona Wildcats, with Glenn Elmore joined by Brad Nessler on the call this time, and that game being won by the Panthers 100-92, or the now 16th ranked LSU Tigers, who were back on campus at the Maravich Assembly Center in Baton Rouge, hosting the Florida Gators. As the Tigers, with Jim Nantz and Bill Raftery on the call, snapped a two-game skid with a 70-52 win before the nationally broadcast late game saw the third-ranked Georgetown Hoyas welcoming the 11th-ranked Syracuse Orangemen to Washington, with James Brown, who, in addition to CBS duties, was also a sportscaster for the local CBS affiliate WUSA TV9, and Billy Packer calling this game. The Orangemen, led by Big East Player of the Year and eventual 1990 number 1 overall pick Derek Coleman, handing the Hoyas their second loss in their last 3 games by a 95-76 margin. Meanwhile, CBS had just 3 NBA games from January. First came on January 21st, NBA doubleheader, the only regular season doubleheader for CBS's farewell season with the NBA. With the early game pitting the defending NBA champion Detroit Pistons against the Los Angeles Lakers in a rematch of the 2 previous NBA Finals, with Laker forward James Worthy finishing with a game-high 31 points and 8 rebounds, while Magic Johnson added 21 points and 16 assists. The Lakers won 107-97 in a typical Bad Boys era game that saw Pistons forward Mark Aguirre carried off on a stretcher in an altercation between Pistons center Bill Laimbeer, Worthy, and fellow Laker forward AC Green. And Pistons' high scorer in that game was a rather unexpected player, center James Edwards, who finished with 26 points. Meanwhile, New York City Knicks welcomed the Chicago Bulls, along with CBS's Greg Gumbel and Quinn Buckner, to the Big Apple, only for the Bulls, led by Michael Jordan's 42 points and 10 boards, to win a 117-109 game. Finally, before moving on, CBS carried a meeting between the Boston Celtics and Phoenix Suns on January 28th as their lead-in to Super Bowl XXIV coverage. A superb 40-point afternoon by Suns forward Tom Chambers wasn't enough to assure victory in Boston Garden, as the Celtics, led by Larry Bird's 22 points and also aided by 21 off the bench by Kevin McHale, were winning 126-118. Needless to say, the competitiveness of that game was not an accurate preview of what was to come later that afternoon.